Well, Jacinta, thank you for sitting down with me today. You've had an exceptional career, working really from the absolute bottom up at Telstra in Australia here, and to the point where you were running the Telstra Australian Businesswomen's Awards and the Small Business Awards. And then, you found yourself at National Australia Bank, and now you're spearheading a program there that will really change the landscape for women in Australia. But, your story, I think, is most remarkable because of what you've overcome and really the attitude you've brought to dealing with the obstacle you faced. The first of which, I think, was really having, finding yourself with a baby at 18 years of age. So can you just share with me what is the mindset? What do you think that's really allowed you to come from being a girl in the country, 17 and pregnant, to sitting at the decision-making tables in Australia with Australia's top business leaders?
Yeah. Well, I've had a very interesting life. I grew up in a very large family in the country. There was 11 children in my family, and I am child number 6, so I'm the middle child. And I think being the middle child creates a really interesting focus for you because you have to speak up. You have to get out there and do things. You have to make things happen for yourself. So my attitude to life is, get out there and do whatever you can. And I had a wonderful childhood in this very full family, this very full house. And curiosity has always been a driver behind what I do. And I think finding myself as a parent at a very young age made me realise that I can either stay here and just do this, or I can actually do something with my life and for my son and myself, and just get on and do it. And that's what I did. So, I saw that I could stay in the little town I was in with the large family I was with and do what everybody else did in the country and marry the local guy and be there, or I could explore the world and move on and see what was out there, and that's what I did. So,
I really relate to that. I grew up in a big family too, in rural Victoria, like you did, and at 18 moved to Melbourne, like you did. And I think it was the same. It was, it was a lovely place to grow up, but there's so much more out there, you want to see. And I think sometimes we can stick with the familiar because we're afraid of the unknown. But you weren't afraid of venturing off to Melbourne, which, now in hindsight you go, oh, it's just Melbourne. But at the time, that's an unknown big city. You were on your own largely. And unlike me, you had a child to look after at 18. So has fear of the unknown ever been something you've struggled with?
I think, look, I was putting myself out of my comfort zone. So I was, it wasn't easy. I didn't go into it blind, but I didn't let that stop me either. I didn't allow that fear to stop me from moving forward. And you just take it in your stride. You just get on with it. You've just got to do it. Because otherwise you would just be trapped. And I don't like being trapped. I like to be, get out there and see what's going on. So I think the fear actually, and my sense of curiosity and my desire to learn and explore drove me to keep moving past where I was. And I really knew, and I also knew, 17 is a very young age to be pregnant, but also I knew that to create a life for myself and my son, I needed to move out of where I was. Innately, I knew that, and I could see what was going on around me. So I knew, even though it was very scary, and it was very, I was quite apprehensive about it because I moved to Melbourne. I didn't know anybody. I had a job. I had got myself a job at Telstra. I moved in with a relative of my father's who he didn't actually know, but they very kindly offered me a room to rent, and they sort of took me under their wing. But they also said, you've got to make this happen for yourself, Jacinta. And I knew I had to. I knew, just from my own experience of growing up in a large family, that I had to, if you wanted something to happen, you had to make it happen yourself. You couldn't just sit around and wait for somebody to do it for you.
You've got to be resourceful.
You have to be resourceful. And, you can wait for someone to do something for you, but it may not be what you want.
And you might be waiting a long time
too. You could be waiting a long time. And I knew that, I had the responsibility of myself, and I also had the responsibility of my son. And I wanted him to have a very positive life, and I knew that to do that I had to move, and I had to do things, and I had to, break through those places that I wasn't familiar with and make it happen. So, yeah.
So in doing so, and and it's for people watching this who may have just always grown up in a city and never had to move. It can be hard to imagine, what it's like to move somewhere strange when you don't know anyone, and particularly when you're young. It's not like you have a lot of money behind you. There's not a lot to fall back on. I know for me, I think those formative years when I moved to Melbourne at 18 were really helped to shape me, because I became very resourceful, very resilient. I've got to look after myself because no one else is going to pay the bills. I've got to get out and work the jobs and stuff. So how do you think that shaped who you are?
I think, it was a big thing in how I operate now. I had to go, I moved to Box Hill, and I really hadn't even been, caught the train a couple of times, but that was about it. So I really had to find my way around everything. I didn't know anywhere. I didn't know where to go to get my hair cut. I didn't know where to go and buy things. I didn't know how to make things happen. So I just had to absorb everything I possibly could. I had to go and talk to people. I had to seek out people who could help me. I had to put myself out there. I had to knock on doors. I had to go and, talk to people that I weren't familiar with at all or had no exposure to, and ask for help and direction and guidance. But be smart enough to, know that I had to absorb that and work out which is the best path to go down. Not just because someone told me to do that would I go that way. I would, take it all on and think about, okay, what's the best thing to do here? So that has shaped a lot about, where I've taken my career and what I've done in my life since then. You have to be resourceful, you have to be smart, you have to be alert, but you really have to put yourself out there as well. And just trust yourself, have confidence in yourself. And, I ran into roadblocks and I ran into all sorts of things, but you realise, well, okay, that's not going to stop me. That's a bit of a hindrance, but I can work a way to get around that. And you have to, and particularly when you've got a young child, you just cannot take no for an answer. If you need to do things, you need to do things. So you push through.